Hi, how you doing? Hello, youth workers. Welcome to our workshop preparing for the summer of play. We all know what year it's been like for the kids and the young people in Northern Ireland, in fact, across the world. And we also know how important it is that this year, more than ever, they get a summer of play. My name is Peter McCartney, and I work for an organisation wrong shoulder called PlayBoard. PlayBoard, as you probably already know, promote children's play across Northern Ireland. And that's really important at the moment because we all recognise how important children's play is. And that's why there's a big drive this summer for a summer of play. And we're delighted that the youth service are getting behind this summer of play and encouraging you as a youth worker to promote play in your youth setting over the summer for children and young people across Northern Ireland. Hopefully this webinar, which lasts for about half an hour, will give you some ideas, first of all, about why that's important, and secondly, about how to go about doing that. So enjoy. So we're talking about this summer being a bit of a boost for children, a play boost for kids, because we know that the year that we've had has had an impact on them and their play. We've called it a playdemic. They've been through lots of things, like after school closures, youth club closures or online delivery, public parks and places closed, no opportunities to go to grandparents and seek refuge or respite there, and complete lockdown for part of the year as well. So that's had an impact on the children's play. Our research, when we've talked to children, it's demonstrated that children have been deprived in their play, as we would say, deprived in their play over the course of the pandemic. Active play, they say, has dropped from 53% down to 31%. Social play has dropped even more from 60% the whole way down to 5%. Lack of opportunity to play with friends and so on. And technology play, so a particular type of play, they say has increased from 33%, 34% to 55%. I think we'd probably all agree that's probably more than that. Now we call that play bias because that's an example of play deprivation where children only get one particular type of play. Children need a variety of play in order to benefit from the play. So there's no doubt that children have experienced deprivation in their play over the course of the pandemic, but they've had other things as well. At home, maybe more arguments at home where parents maybe become separated because of those arguments, because of the intensity of being in one place all the time. Opportunity and disagreements that result from that in terms of visiting rights and so on. And this lack of opportunity to go to grandparents or to go to aunts and uncles and family and friends to get some respite, both for the parents and for the children. And as well as that, of course, children like ourselves have been worried about contracting the virus. So they've had a tough time, such a tough time that you could say that there's an emergency at the moment. We need to do something about this. Hence the summer of play. This is a serious business. Play is the most important thing that children do. So if they don't get an opportunity to do it, we need to do something about it. We need to give kids this summer some CPR. So the question is, are you ready for it? Well, let's have a look and see. Here's your first task. This will help you get tuned into this thing called play. What I want you to do is I want you to think about when you were between the age of maybe 5 or 8 or 10 or 12. What sorts of things did you do? What sorts of play did you experience then? What did you do? Where did you do it? And who did you do it with? Spend 30 seconds thinking about that, about your play memories. What did you play? Where did you play? And who did you play with? Well, like me, you're probably remembering lots of play experiences, which tended to be outside, which tended to be to go from breakfast when you were thrown out of the house until it got dark or it was time to come in for tea. And all the things that you did during that time tended to be with other kids. There didn't tend to be other adults involved. So, I mean, you'll have identified lots and lots of different types of play, and we'll look at some of those different types of play in a wee minute. But those play memories give us some indicators. Your play memories and my play memories give us some indicators of what good quality play might be. If we remember it, it must be memorable. So let's think about what some of those quality play opportunities might represent. Well, first of all, it was fun. All those play memories that you identify are fun. Of course, there are times when play isn't fun. Whenever you don't get picked for the football team, or your team lose a match or whatever, then that has an impact on you. But that's all important in terms of your experience. But more often than not, play is fun. You didn't leave the house in the morning to socially, physically, intellectually, creatively, culturally develop. You went out of the house in the morning during the summer to play because it was fun. So that's central characteristic of good quality play. But the second one is that it's owned by the kids. The play that we remember when we were young, there weren't any adults involved. Indirectly, they might have given us some information, some of which we obeyed and some of which we probably didn't obey. But the play that we remember, and therefore the play that's memorable, was owned by us, was directed by us, was controlled by us. So that must be a key characteristic of good quality play. And of course, it's good variety. I'm sure you have identified lots of physical things you did outside, lots of intellectual things that you did outside, because play is active, not just active physically, but it's active mentally as well. Mentally in terms of working things out, but mentally in terms of emotionally, the heart. So through play, we got a chance to be physically active, be mentally active, and emotionally active as well. And for lots of us, there were probably elements of risk involved, jumping from a big height, knocking on the door and running away in case somebody caught you, intrigue, trying to find out where a river went when it went in under a tunnel, and of course, a fair degree of imagination as well, where we pretended particular objects were actually something else. Like a guitar, I still do that in fact. So characteristics of good play are that it's owned by the kids, adults aren't involved, and it tends to be outside. So let's think about, if those are the characteristics of good play, let's think about how we can make play happen then for children. Now, those are the sorts of play that we're trying to make happen for children. Like we believe that's important in PlayBoard, but other organizations believe the same. The International Play Association, for example, recognize how important play is, particularly in times of crisis, because play gives kids an opportunity to stay emotionally healthy. It helps them be physically active. It gives them a chance to get some exercise. It helps them to relax and forget about all those worries that they have. It helps them make sense of the world around them and the changes that are happening in their world. And of course, that's really important at the moment. And it helps them to cope with feelings that are difficult or frightening. Play gives kids those opportunities. So it's really important that we give them opportunities to play this summer. It's an emergency. We've got to be like a play doctor. So here's your induction training. Let's give play some CPR this summer. What do we mean by CPR? Well, first of all, let's look at C. C stands for clued in. We've got to be clued into play. We've already got a wee bit of an insight into what play is from our own experiences. So let's recognize that for all of us, we have some expertise in play. because we used to play ourselves when we were young. So let's get clued into play. Let's try and understand better about what it is. We need to recognize how valuable it is, and we need to make sure that everybody else knows that. Lots of people think that play is what children do when they've nothing better to do, whereas we know, in fact, it is the better thing to do. Let's make sure we tell everybody that. And having fun, which is a real reason why children play, is worthwhile. There are loads of serious things happening at the moment. Children's mental health and well-being, how they feel about themselves, is under threat at the moment. We've got to give them an opportunity to have fun, to get some joy back into their lives, and play will help us do that. And then the third, and maybe the most important thing about being clued into play, is just letting them get on with it. Stepping back and letting it happen. Just like we did whenever we were young. Let the children be the boss. Now, of course, there might be times when you need to step in and add value to the play, or even curb the play in some way, or manage the play in some way, because the kids are, and the children and the young people are getting maybe a bit unsafe. So there might be a need for us to step in at some time, but don't take it over. Add value to the play rather than take it over. So that's the C. C stands for being clued into play. In other words, what we're talking about is what I like to call DIY play, where children choose when to play, what to play, how to play, and even when to stop. So that's the best sort of play of all, DIY play, play that's led by the children themselves. So we're giving kids CPR. C stands for being clued into play. What about P? What's P stand for? P stands for permission. We kind of think that we give kids permission to play all the time, whereas in fact, quite often we're giving kids the opposite picture. We're asking them to be a bit quieter. We're asking them not to be quite so messy. So P stands for permission, giving kids permission to play, permission to make noise. So when we're arranging where the play is going to take place, we don't want to arrange it beside where the children, the wee babies, are sleeping, or where there are people working, or where old people live, or whatever. We want to try and arrange it. Otherwise, we'll be telling them to keep quiet all the time. Play is noisy. So make sure that the space where children are playing is a space where they can make noise, and therefore where you can give them permission to make noise. Permission to make a mess. Don't be doing paint in a room with carpet in. Pretty basic, isn't it? Pretty sensible. Permission to make a mess. Give them old clothes so that they're not wearing their good school uniform whenever they're playing. Give them permission to use any object, that object or whatever object, for something else that's not. So a saucepan for a wee hat, or a cardboard box that you've been keeping to carry your groceries from the store that afternoon. Give it to the kids and let them play with it. Permission to get dirty, and permission to be really silly. And one of the ways that you might encourage kids to be really silly in their play is, of course, that you might be silly yourself. So one of your roles as an adult may well be to model the play and to model being silly. Because if you're silly, the kids know that they can be silly as well. And permission to be bored. Boredom is good. It's great when kids come to you and say, oh, I'm bored, because that's a real motivation for creativity, for using their imagination, for them going and playing. So allow them, give them the opportunity and their permission, therefore, to be bored, because that's the stimulus for really good play. In other words, we're talking about giving them permission to play. Okay, so C stands for clued into play. I nearly forgot what it was there. P stands for permission, and R stands for resources. We've got to give kids the resources that will support their play. Now, it doesn't have to be all this expensive equipment. We've all heard the story of the child at Christmas who plays with a box rather than the big expensive toy that's in it. So when we're talking about expenses, sorry, when we're talking about resources, we're not talking about dear things. First of all, in terms of resources, we're talking about time. Give them time to do their own thing, to do their own play, where they're not programmed to do this or programmed to do that, or timetable to do this or timetable to do that. Give them space in their time to do their own thing. Okay, so that's one resource. The second resource is in fact space. You need to create an area where kids can make a mess, where kids can make noise, where kids can do their own thing and be themselves without disturbing other people that are annoying others, without other people interrupting their play or them being in particular danger. So two of the resources are time and space to play. And then, of course, there's the play equipment itself, what we call loose parts, equipment that's free and found across the place that you can use or children can use in order to play. Loose parts like toilet roll tubes, sticks, paint, chalks, boxes, old sheets, big tires and stuff. We'll come back to look at loose parts in a wee minute. But when we're talking about play props, things that children can play with, we're not talking about big expensive equipment. Primarily we're talking about loose parts, and there's a picture of a whole clatter of loose parts. And those of you who are members of the Play Resource Warehouse in Belfast will know exactly what we're talking about. Where that scrap store, if you're a member, you can go in and collect any number of loose parts that the kids will then use in order to play. So this is what loose parts are. They really encourage the kids to use their imagination for them to be involved in their play. And they're things like natural resources like straw and mud, building materials like planks and hammers and pallets, big scrap materials like old tires, offcuts of material to build dens and so on, old guttering, which is great for water play, and crates, and house scrap materials, things that everybody find around the house, like sheets and paper and curtains and clothes and so on. Those are loose parts. Those are the best play props of all because they're free or very, very cheap, and they encourage the kids to use their imagination in order to use them for play. Okay, so you could right now find some of those loose parts in your house. You could go and find 4 loose parts that begin with the letter P, L, A, Y, and bring them back to me. Except I'm not going to give you the time to do that. But think about loose parts as you're walking around the house and set aside the things that you recognize would be really useful for children to play with. Loose parts. Okay, so those are the things that children play with. What about the play itself? Well, you've all probably heard of the PLAYwell Plate, which sets out the kind of food, combination of food that children should build into a healthy eating diet. Well, here's a healthy play diet with all the relevant portions that children need to experience in terms of their play in order to play well. So I'll go through each of them one at a time. The big red one there, Play Physical, is clear enough in the sense that children need opportunities to get engaged in a whole range of physical play, running around play fighting where they're rolling around with each other, running in a big outdoor space, climbing trees, standing on one leg, physical skills like ball skills and throwing and catching and so on. Physical play is obviously an essential part of play, and we know the impact that it can have on children's development. Whenever children are playing, they need to play with things. That broadens their play experience. If there are things that they can play with, props that they can use for their play. And those props include tools like play props, like loose parts that we were talking about earlier on, but they also include people. We know how important social play is for kids. So children find it valuable really to have lots of other people around when they're playing. And also language. Children benefit a lot from playing with language, and language is good fun to play with, as well as the fact that it has an impact on the development of language as well. So play physical is important. Playing with things is important as well. Playing with objects, playing with people, and playing with language. The third portion is playing out. Now that sounds like playing outside, and that is very important. We've recognized before how important, especially during COVID, it is for children to play outside. But the play out that we're talking about here is giving kids an opportunity to get involved in play where they can play out situations or experiences that helps them better understand them. And of course, the best example of that at the moment is children playing COVID. I mean, we've seen children playing the game COVID, where they are, admitting people into hospital and putting them on respirators and so on and so on, and making them better. That's children making sense of what's going on in the world around them. And that's what we call playing out. And whilst it might be uncomfortable sometimes for us as adults to see that, it's good for kids to do that, because play has a therapeutic value that helps children come to terms with those things, but also understand them better. Kids get lots of fun from pretend play as well. So you want to have lots of dressing up equipment around, so kids can play different roles, so kids can play different characters. Pretend play is an essential portion that children get in terms of their need to have in terms of their play. And of course, we all know that children learn when they play. So it's good that children get a chance, if that's a type of play that they're most interested in, that they get a chance to learn a wee bit about things whilst they're playing as well. So play learn is an important portion too. And finally, the sixth portion is play feel, where children get a chance to experience, understand, identify, and hopefully manage a wee bit their feelings about everything. So they get a chance to feel happy, hopefully, when they're playing. But they also get a chance to feel a bit scared because what they're doing they've never done before, or it's a bit risky. A chance to feel left out, a chance to feel included, a chance to feel angry about things, and a chance to feel that you need to bail somebody or help somebody out. So it's really important that children get a chance to feel things when they're playing as well. And we would promote an affective play space, a space where kids can go and just chill out. And the place that I worked in before, we had a big parachute, lots of cushions around inside, which we hung the parachute from the rafters, and with lots of soft cushions inside, nice fairy lights, bit of music on, and some books and so on, where kids could just chill out. An affective play space, a place where children can unwind or chill out or chat. That's the PLAYwell Plate, and it's important that you get that children experience as many of those portions as possible each day. And it gives you a wee bit of a framework if you study the play that children are involved in, to make sure that they have the opportunity to play physical, for example. Because if they don't, then you might want to try and encourage that opportunity the next day of your summer program. So that's the PLAYwell Plate, and that's based on a number of play types put forward by a guy called Bob Hughes. And you'll see the pictures that illustrate lots of the different types of play there. Okay, so in terms of the activities, the play opportunities themselves, tying those together into some sort of program might seem a wee bit odd when we're talking about spontaneous play, about playing in the moment. But of course, planning is important in order to get the resources in like the people, like the minibus, and so on and so on. So it is important to plan, but what's key is that you involve the children in the process. And one of the ways you can do that is by having themes. So you might have some themes for the day, or even themes for the week, because that will fire your imagination as to what the play might look like. But it will also fire the children's imagination as well. So you might have an underwater theme, you might have a space theme, you might have a theme with a farm where lots of animals come in, and so on. So, well, you know, if you're at the moment, at the time of recording, the Euros is on, so you might do the countries that are involved in the Euros, which sadly we're not. So themes are really good as a kind of peg, if you like, to hang a program on. But remember, the best play of all is play that's spontaneous, it's in the moment. So flexibility in the plan is really important so that the kids can do their own thing. And to give you some idea, if you like, about activities or opportunities, in PlayBoard, we identified a whole list of different play opportunities that we experienced whenever we were young. And we asked people to vote on the top 20. And here's the top 20. First of all, from 20 to 11, lots of ideas about things that children tend to like to do during the summer. Hopscotch, rock pooling, making a daisy chain, making mud kitchens, and playing in the mud kitchen. You playing with loose parts outside, stick in the mud, rope games, skipping and tug of war, making potions and lotions. Do you remember making perfumes from rose petals? Making art with nature, so getting lots of leaves and twigs and so on. Setting up and running an obstacle course. So that's the top, that's from 11 to 20. From 1 to 10, we had at number 10 rolling down hills. Sure, when you bring the kids up the top of the hill, they'll inevitably roll down it. Street games, climbing trees, going on a scavenger hunt, playing rounders, graffiti with chalk. In fact, this summer in Belfast, the Belfast City Council hope to give every child in Belfast a box of chalk so that in the middle of the summer, on play day, the first Wednesday in August, all children will be able to draw their play with their free box of chalk. Beach and sand play, outdoor painting, den building, and outdoor water play. Sure, there's nothing like a good water fight if the sun's shining. So that's the PlayBoard top 20. However, there were a number that sat outside the top 20 that didn't quite get in there, but I thought were useful to include. Messy play. Some people talked about messy play, walking in the pools when they're blindfolded, for example. A pool of baked beans, a pool of pasta, a pool of water, a pool of jelly. Camping in the garden, sandcastle sculptures, trash smash, a fashion show with stuff from the charity shop or from recycling, building dams and streams, creating musical instruments, making a band, making a record, making a fairy world with natural objects, making dance routines, footprints with paints, going on a bear hunt. Sure, the list is endless. There are some ideas about what you might do with the children in terms of their summer. And we're hoping that every child will have a list of that top 20 as a kind of play challenge, a summer of play challenge. So we're hoping that schools will print out for every child in Northern Ireland a copy of their play challenge, a list of the top 20, and that they'll tick off every time they achieve one of those play activities over the summer as their summer of play challenge. So you can do that as well in their youth setting. So what would go into a plan if you were planning play? Well, of course, you need to think about the kids, how many there are. You know this from your youth service, working in the youth service. You think about the resources that you need, the people, the space, and making sure that the space affords the kids lots of different opportunities to play. And you need to think about all those other factors like weather, clothing, expectations, how experienced the kids are at the particular type of play that you're introducing them or exposing them to. Like climbing trees, for example. Are they good, competent climbers? Or do you need to be more careful in terms of managing that, climbing the trees or climbing up sand dunes or whatever? And then, of course, there's the health and safety. You need to pay attention to health and safety. But remember that it's not just safety, it's health as well. So we're encouraging kids to experience a wee bit of risk, a bit of challenge in their play, because that's what we enjoyed whenever we were young. So we're promoting the risk-benefit assessment process prior to the activity taking place and whilst the activity is taking place, where you're, as a youth worker, not just thinking about the risks that are involved, but thinking about the benefits to the kids as well, and trying to get a balance between the two. Okay, and we'll provide you with a play plan template that enables you to do that. If you contact PlayBoard, we can provide you with that there. Okay, so that's the play itself. You need, of course, to think about the space where the play takes place. We've already said that outdoors is really valuable. It's good if there's a bit of variety in the play space, you know, in terms of the terrain. So some trees for them to climb or hide behind, some hills for them to run up and roll down, so on. You want lots of space. Lots of space is really good for kids to play big games and to run around, to feel free. And you want to populate that space with lots of play props, loose parts that we talked about earlier on, all those free and found things. I mean, as a play worker, and I'm sure as a youth worker as well, you're kind of, you can't walk past a script without looking in to see what potential props there are for children's play. Try and build the senses into their program as well. Encourage them to experience play that gives them a chance to smell and feel and touch as part of their play. And a chance to experience new emotions as well. You know, emotions like achievement, emotions like being afraid, being a wee bit scared, and space to be with others at play. It's good that children get an opportunity to be with other kids whenever they're playing. Not that they can't be on their own, but it's a great opportunity for children to play with others. In fact, they did a piece of research where they asked children what their favorite piece of play equipment was. And the number one piece of play equipment was roundabout, which surprised me. But the reason the roundabout was the most popular piece of play equipment was because children had a chance not just to use it to go round and round and play, but a space where they could sit and talk to their friends. So a space to be with others at play is really an important component of a play space. Now, we know that in terms of health and safety and in terms of that play space, we've got to pay attention to the world that we're in at the moment, which is a world coming out of COVID, hopefully coming out of COVID. What are the key points? Well, I suppose one key point is that mental health is as important as physical health. So whilst we're concerned about the physical health catching COVID, we have to think about the mental health and well-being of children as well. That's why we're pushing the summer of play. So we've got to get the balance right. We don't want to become complacent, of course, about hygiene and hand sanitation. That's the best way to fight off the virus. We want to use the outdoors as much for play as possible because it's better fun, but also because there's less danger of catching COVID. Use the resources that can be disposed of or easily cleaned is a good idea because that reduces, again, the chances of children picking up anything. And also be creative in your play space. Try not to let COVID restrict children's play opportunities too much. Because remember, we want to get the balance right between mental health and well-being as well as physical health. So let me direct you to PlayBoard on its website in terms of a resource that's really useful for you. The Way to Play is a fantastic resource that flags up a wee bit more about children's play gives you a wee bit more information about that. But it also gives you lots of ideas about things that you could create or make available for children in order to help them to play. It's free at the moment on the PlayBoard website. So get on www.playboard.org and access the resources there. There'll be another resource actually there, which is about helping to promote, giving you some guidance as to how you can, to support you in a summer of play and promoting the summer of play. So you'll be able to access that if you access the PlayBoard website as well. Membership of PlayBoard's free, so get in there and use the resources that are there. So that's us. That's the summer of play. We're absolutely delighted that you're coming on board to enable children to get more play this summer. It's not just PlayBoard that's promoting the summer of play. It's across all of the 4 nations. So there is a promotion for the summer of play this year because we recognize how important it is. So I encourage you to go to the website www.summerofplay.co.uk and sign the pledge there, which emphasizes how important it is for children to get play throughout the summer. And if you do, then you will be part of a big group of adults who recognize that for children this year, the most important thing is for them to play. And the most important thing we can do is to help them play. Good luck with that. If you get a chance, I'd be really delighted if you could pop into the PlayBoard website. If you could take that little number down, that website address, sorry, that link down, and fill in a wee evaluation form. You got a chance, that would be really good to tell us what you thought of the webinar. Enjoy the summer, make it happen for the kids. Here's to a great summer of play. Thanks for your time, folks. I hope you found that useful. The summer of 2021 hopefully will be a great summer for us all. Let's make it the best summer of play for the kids in Northern Ireland, for the children and young people in Northern Ireland. Boy, do they deserve it. Bye.